Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. And this is going to be another episode going into news and prophecy where we link the things happening worldwide to the Holy Scriptures so that the elect, all right, the remnant, the faithful in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua can understand that the words that are written in this book are faithful and true, as it says. Let's get that in the book of Revelation, the 22nd chapter, in the 10th verse. And it says, "And he said unto me, seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand." And this is why we constantly go into these prophecies now. As you can see, I have here Zelensky, all right, who is of Ukraine, all right, which we know Ukraine is in current, back and forth with Russia, all right, as there is talks of, Ukraine joining NATO, and, there's been agreements between NATO and Russia that NATO wouldn't push any more towards, all right, their territory, but they've been doing it, all right, and they haven't stopped. And if they add Ukraine, all right, to NATO, that will give, all right, NATO an ally right in the front yard of Russia, all right, so that's obviously not going to go over well. But what I wanted to talk about briefly and get a few articles and a few scriptures is how the apostles and elders have been the only ones that I have heard, all right, that have went into the least of the flock, all right, drawing out, all right, these different nations, including Babylon the Great, for war. Let's get it here in Jeremiah 49 and 20. "Therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely," in the modern day Teman is Babylon the Great, "surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he will make their habitations desolate with them." Now, when you look at this article here, we'll go back to that. Zelensky urges the West to shoot down Russian missiles like they did for Israel. You see that? Zelensky urges the West to shoot down Russian missiles like they did for Israel. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, sodomite, has called out his allies for protecting Israel's airspace while Russia pummels his cities. The fierce leader demanded his country to receive the same level of protection after the UK, US, and Western powers blasted Iran's missile drones out of the sky, all right, in steadfast defense for Israel. So he himself, all right, if you know about him, who is he and what is he? All right, Zelensky, all right, was born to a Uish, all right, you see that name, all right, which that name sparks a lot of controversy, all right, because we're living in a time where everywhere you look, people are against them, all right, but they're going to use the media and propaganda to make themselves the biggest victims, but they are the ones that have been on the offense, and they are pretty much going to lead all of these different militaries out to war. And mainly what we need is Babylon the Great to get involved, okay, which eventually it will happen, but we know there's other prophecies that need to come to pass. But here it is. He himself is a small hat, okay, but again, right here, he's born to a Ukrainian Uish, Thruish family. See? So he himself is a small hat. You see, and we know that Ukraine has been at the forefront of war, all right? And now we see this situation going on in Iran, and that is between them and Israel. More small hats. So when you go into this prophecy, which the apostles and elders were the ones who broke this down. Okay, and remember, we came in around the Great Awakening in 2007, and they were talking about this back then, that the least of the flock, the small hats, were going to be the ones to draw, these different nations out for war, going into Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, and constantly bringing out these prophecies. And now we're seeing it happen. All right. Now, when you look up this word, let's go to Jeremiah 50 and 45. Therefore, hear ye the counsel of Yahweh, that he have taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he have proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. All right. The modern day Chaldeans are the Edomites. Okay. As you can see here in 49 and 20, it's his counsel against Edom. All right. And Jeremiah 50 and 45. Okay. It's his counsel against Babylon. Okay. And the land of the Chaldeans. This is the land of the Chaldeans. Okay. Which the modern day Chaldeans are the witches and warlocks and the bankers and the elites who pretty much commune with Satan and these demons. And they have power and dominion in the earth. And they've used Babylon the Great, all right, as a hammer, all right, as a means to go through the four corners of the earth, destroying, poisoning. As the scriptures say, Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made the whole earth drunken. So surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. The least of the flock is going to draw Babylon out. And as we can see here, Zelensky is calling for the West, calling for the UK, calling for, all right, the United States, all right, to do the same thing they did for Iran, all right, against Israel, which Iran, all right, systematically, put some drones out there, and, the drones were shot down, and that took money. That took a lot of money. So it was a strategic, all right, move by Iran, because we know I believe they have two major militaries, and, they haven't moved as we know they're going to move. All right. And Russia hasn't fully got involved, along with the various different nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38. But it's all being, culminated to what we need. Now, when you look up this word, least of the flock, all right, it's speaking of the small hats. Okay. The least of the flock, the word for least is tazayar. All right. Tazayar, little, insignificant, young, little, insignificant, young, younger, youngest. Now, when you look at the beast system, all right, you have the 7 heads, which starts with the Greeks, okay, Rome, Germania Major, Germania Minor, all right, the Spanish, the French, and then you have the British. You see, now out of the British came what? All right, America, which is Babylon the Great, but also, all right, when we go into it, out of the British colonial period, all right, came, all right, the state of Israel. All right. What year was the state of Israel established? All right. May 14, 1948. And this is nothing but an extension of the British colonialism, which we've done videos on that. You see? So when you look at the small hats, dealing with them being the least of the flock, they're, pretty much the youngest, all right, to be established as a state, which, again, we know May 14, 1948, a war broke out, all right, between Egypt, all right, and Israel. All right. Okay. The Arab-Israeli War. Okay. And I believe Egypt was involved. All right. On the eve of May 14th, the Arabs launched an air attack on Tel Aviv, which the Israelis resisted. The action was followed by the invasion of the former Palestinian mandated by Arab armies of Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Egypt. Saudi Arabia sent a formation that fought under the Egyptian command. So there was a war the very night that this state was established, all right, which show me a prophecy of a state of Israel. No, again, when the true Israelites return to their land, is going to be the throne of David. But anyway, May 14, 1948 is the year that this state of Israel was established. So it makes sense that they will be called the least, all right, the least of the flock, all right. And as we look around in the world, okay, it also can mean insignificant, okay. And they are, amongst the beast system nations, they are, what you would call the smallest or one of the smallest. But everywhere we look, there's protest against these people for what's going on over there in, between them and the Palestinians.
Alert to these live protests happening quite literally coast to coast, popping up all over the country in recent weeks and months. And today, San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge is shut down due to a handful of protesters there. We are told there has been 7 arrests so far, some of which we've seen happen.
So we don't have to go too far into this, but everywhere you look, we're starting to see protest against these people. We're starting to see people calling them out. They can't catch a break. You see? And this is why you're starting to see the whole anti-Sim thing being revved up. So they are the least of the flock in the sense that they are, when you deal with how, the year they were established, all right, they were established by the British intelligence, all right, which is one of the heads of the beast. All right, and they were pretty much, they're the last. They were the youngest. You see? So the least of the flock is being used, all right, via prophecy, you see, to draw out these nations, including Babylon the Great, which is the modern day Teman. Okay. When you go to Teman, all right, Man, okay, region occupied by descendants, all right, of Idumea. Ultimately, the modern day Teman, all right, is the tribe descendant noted for the wisdom of its people. Okay, and that's how America has been looked at. That's how the small hats has been looked at. When you go to even the whole IQ, the intelligence quotient madness, the nation of people who have the highest IQ, all right, are these people. All right, the small hats. But this is very interesting. Zelensky urges the West to shoot down Russian missiles like they did for Israel. So basically, they're being used to draw out these nations for war, all right, starting with Babylon the Great, okay? Now, this is a very interesting article as well, all right? William Cooper, which I believe he's passed away. Supposedly they took him out. Let me make sure. He wrote the book called Behold a Pale Horse, which, when we came into the truth, and he died in 2001, but supposedly they took him out. And he, brought out a lot of information before they took him out. And, most people who were into any conspiracy, were onto that book, Behold a Pale Horse, which we know the pale horse in the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter, is this beast system, all right, doing exactly what they're doing now, all right, in preparation to starve the people out, bring war and mass death. Now, when you look at this, it says he warned that the state, all right, this state was created to usher in, all right, the NWO, all right, the one world gov, which is pretty much the modern day Tower of Babel, you see, which we're seeing systematically be established. He says Israel was created as an instrument to bring about a war that will be so terrible where nuclear weapons will be used so that people will get down on their knees and beg for no more war, Cooper said in a 1992 interview. Now, we know, pursuant to the scriptures, okay, let's get this. This is the book of Psalms 58 and 1. Do you indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, ye sons of men? No, they don't. Yea, in heart you work wickedness, ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. And all of these wars that have pretty much been set up have been the wars of bankers. And you can look that up. You can just look up, there's a video, I believe, and it's called All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. Okay? And pretty much, all right, let's see if we can. Let's see if they have it here. And who runs the banks? Yeah, here we go. You can look this up. I believe this is it. All right, you can look it up, but you can look up All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. And we know who ultimately runs the banks. All right, we know who it is. All right, we ain't gonna click that because who knows what it will bring. But you can look that up. All wars are bankers' wars, man. Okay, so as we're reading here, in heart ye work wickedness, ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. Okay, so they're pretty much, these small heads have been at the forefront of all of these wars. The wicked are estranged from the womb; they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. All right, because they are bringing back the energy of the serpent. That's why the scriptures say that old serpent called the devil and Satan. You see? And we know that according to prophecy, Micah, the 4th chapter, or Isaiah, the 1st chapter, all right, when the true people get to that land, all right, Micah 4 and 2, and many nations shall come. Say, come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, which is the tabernacle of David, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So not only would there be peace, all right, but the nations in the planet Earth will be taught the law, statutes, and commandments. That's not happening. And they shall judge, and he shall judge among many people, Yahweh Shai, and rebuke strong nations afar off. All right, and that's the thing. When you deal with this whole state of Israel, none of it has anything to do with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as atheists established that thing. Okay? It says, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. This is what's going to happen when the true Israelites return to that land. But before that, there will be, pursuant to the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, nations will what? All right. Joel 3 and 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And when you look around the world, what do you see? Wars and rumors of wars. That's letting you know that the true people ain't in that land. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So to hell with the agricultural and trying to fix, get missiles, get weaponry, all right, and even the weak nations like North Korea, okay, are barking against Babylon the Great. So the nations are preparing for war right now, you see, and the nation that's at the forefront of bringing and leading all of these nations to war just so happens to be these small hats. And this guy Netanyahu, not a you, not a Jew, as the elder brother Requia Kwam calls him. All right, he is absolutely moving as a madman, and pretty much he has to bring friction. He has to bring war, because as soon as his term is over, all right, the people of Israel are going to try to have his ass brought up on charges for war crimes. So he needs some form of situation to get back in good graces with the people. All right. Everywhere you look, just type it in. Okay. In Israel. Just look it up. Protests in Israel. Okay. Anti Netanyahu protests.
ואתה כושל היום. אתה ראש הממשלה הכושל שהיה בתולדות ישראל.
They're protesting against the government of Israel. So again, I mean, we can't say it enough, but how are these the people? How is the, come on now. But you know who's silent? Vocab Malone. You see, for years, all right, they've been following the Israelites around. Now we saw that they put us on this list as some form of hate group, which, as one of the brothers said, really what we're teaching is love. You see, we hate evil, all right, but ultimately the end all be all of our message is love. The law, statutes, and commandments being spread in the earth, man. That's love. They just don't like that they're going to have to be on the receiving end of judgment. But these people are going around bombing, destroying, rape, robbing, and murder, and doing what they've always done. And now they're vowing to unleash hell on Iran following attack, which Iran has the right to defend itself. You see? But again, the media, you see, and these devils are going to push this narrative that they are being attacked, when ultimately we know that it was Israel who pretty much for years, all right, have been poking at Iran, taking out particular of their leaders. Okay. And the other day they bombed I forget the name of the building that they bombed, but in particular, agreements on war, you don't bomb, I believe it was an embassy. I forget what they bombed. Let's look it up so we can know. Yeah, it was an embassy. Okay. They but now the narrative in the news is that they are defending themselves. Okay. Iran warranted to harm the strategic capabilities of the state of Israel. That is something that has not happened before. We were prepared for the Iron Shield operation preparation that brought Iran also meet superiority, yada, yada, yada. So they're at the forefront of a lot of this madness in this war that's coming, man. All right. But let's go back here. He said that this state was created to usher in a one world gov. So it makes sense why they're at war so much. Let's listen to him.
What role in the Middle East again does Israel play in this?
Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecy, a war that would be so terrible, where nuclear weapons would be used, so that the American citizens and the other people in the world would get down on their knees and beg for no more war. And what is the answer to that? They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity in a one world government.
And that's what we see happening. That's what we can clearly see that they're doing. All right. We can clearly see that ultimately they want war. They want to bring about all of this chaos so that ultimately, when it's all said and done, they can bring about order out of that chaos. And we know that the order that they want, man.
Read the book of Revelations, whether you believe in the book or not, read it, because the men who are bringing this about are using it as their script.
Okay, and the Jewish people were then being manipulated into believing it was for some other reason.
That's correct. They've always been manipulated. And I get people who still come to me all the time and say, Bill, you're all wrong. It's the Jews. The Jews are subverting the world. Man.
And you can keep listening to that. All right. And they have this interview, Behold a Pair of Horse, which you got to spit out It is, oh boy, these devils. You got to spit out the bones, of course, when listening to it. But I thought that was interesting. All right, that we can clearly see that that's what's happening. All right, and when you get Revelation, the 6th chapter, let's get that. Revelation, the 6th chapter, and the 8th verse. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name that sat on him was Death. All right, and what does the book of Habakkuk say? All right, let's get Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. In the 4th verse, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. All right, because this man is operating in a very, very wicked manner. So we're going to have to live by faith. Yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. He's all over the world. All right, and they use Babylon the Great, as you can see, all right, as a means to do all of the reckless stuff that they do, because they know Babylon, NATO will back them. The EU nation, they will be backed. See, and America has been used as the hammer of the earth to go throughout the four corners of the earth, spreading all of this wickedness and destruction. Okay. All right. And of course, Babylon is going to get the support of the EU and NATO nations. You see, so it's all been working. All right. But we're living in a time where a lot of these nations are divided within the beast system, who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. So that's what they're doing. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth in that which is not his, how long? And that ladeth himself with thick clay, debt. And the bankers are the ones responsible for that debt and the enslavement of nations. Okay, using the dollar. Okay, and just ultimately being assholes, man. But again, he is as death, all right, and cannot be satisfied. So we're living in a time where all of the people on the earth are calling out these small hats now, calling out Babylon the Great in the West now. You see, for their role and involvement in all of these crimes worldwide. See, death is the name of him that sat on this pale horse, and hell followed with him. See, this all speaks to Esau, Edom, man. And death and hell is going to be cast into the lake of fire. This is death and hell. Okay. And power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. And he's doing that. Okay. And it's going to only get worse before it gets better. All right. But they're even divided. Israel's war leaders don't trust one another. Okay. So, you can look that up. Long simmering grudges and arguments over tactics have soured relations between Prime Minister Netanyahu, the defense minister, and former military chiefs. So they're divided. Okay. They're divided. All right. Not only is the EU divided, not only is the NATO nations divided, okay, but we see that Israel war leaders are divided. All right. And they don't agree with the tactics. Okay. So that's something to also understand and look at. All right. As well, which you can just look this article up. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere else, man. So let's see here. And this was also a pretty good, this is on InfoWars. All right. Predicts attacks on U.S. soil. All right. This guy predicting attacks on U.S. soil ahead of NATO mobilization in Ukraine. Let's listen to some of this and then we'll end it off.
So how do you think the West is going to respond? We see Ukraine move out of the news. They want us to forget about it. What do you think the strategy is going to be? More terror attacks against Russia? That's only...
Because, yeah, Ukraine was in the news, and Ukraine now is Israel and Iran. All right. So we know that they're up to something.
Embolden Russia. Do you think there's going to be any sane minds that try to wind this thing down, or is it going to just continue to simmer?
Well, Alex, unfortunately, what you're going to see is the Syrianization. And this is following the Syrianization plan that we saw all the way back. And we called this, I think, October. We were on here talking about how.
And also, too, Biden, Biden tells Israel that he won't support them. Then there's videos where he's saying we stand behind them in an ironclad. America is going to help Israel. Okay, when it's all said and done, that's where their loyalty lies. And that's what prophecy said that they're going to do. All right. So U.S. will, all right, help Israel. All right. And this is what the prophecy goes into, of the least of the flock, drawing them out for war, man. All right. Psalms 140:1. Deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. All right. This is what they want. This is what they need. All right. And this is what's coming. All right. But even to U.S. soil. So let's listen to some of this and then we'll close it out.
They were going to turn this into the new Syria. So if people have to understand what's actually going on in Syria, by the way, it's the terror war, it's proxy forces, the government controls certain areas, you've got NATO forces, there's U.S. forces obviously in Syria right now. And so those are quote unquote stabilization forces. So that's kind of a standoff area. But then there's terror wars that are going on in the hinterlands.
While other networks lie to you about what's happening now, InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next. Visit InfoWars.
Priest, who's a huge following, not just online, but in Sydney, Australia, being stabbed in the face and the neck. Thank God he's alive. And then obviously we've got the bridge attack, which is being investigated as criminal now. Hopefully grandchildren one day. For people that don't know how dangerous the situation is in the Middle East and how this could escalate very quickly, break it down for us.
Look, Alex, we saw this over the weekend, and the real question is, was this a dust-up or was this an opening salvo? Now, of course, with Iran giving the 72-hour notice prior to the attacks, the real question is, was this an attempt at face-saving by Iran, and essentially them knowing that this wouldn't be one of these major attacks that they potentially could bring to bear, basically saying we're willing to do this, but we're not willing to go all the way just yet. Obviously, the drone swarm that you saw go up early, those are the Shahad drones, the same Gerons that you see coming out in the Ukraine situation. Ukraine doesn't have Iran, the Iron Dome there, so. The Iron Dome, though, made short work of many of those kamikaze drones. Then, of course, we have reports that U.S. fighters, British fighters were up intercepting some of the other drones, some of the other missiles, U.S. military, U.S. Navy there for ballistic missile defense. And so Iran isn't, I don't think, interested in sparking a wider war with Iran, with U.S. and Israel behind it, because they know they couldn't beat the U.S. and Israel together. The real danger, though, Alex, and I will say the real danger, though, is if this continues. So scenario one, this goes back to the proxy war, the same proxy war that the U.S. and Israel and all these forces have been fighting with the Shia militia groups for over a decade at this point. That's number one. Option two, scenario two, is escalation. Does Israel respond with a direct attack on Iran? And if Israel responds with a direct attack on Iran, and actually, now we know this Iranian attack, nobody got killed. I think like a little girl got hurt, unfortunately, but that was the only thing that, thank God, that was the only thing that happened. And the real question here, Alex, is does Israel respond with a direct attack on Iran? Because if so, and you've already had neocons calling for Israel to go nuclear. Look, we know Israel's got nuclear weapons. They've got a couple of hot ones on the shelf. And you'd be stupid to think that Iran doesn't have a couple of nukes ready to go if they were actually pulled to the mat and called to the carpet. So, of course, Israel goes nuclear, Iran goes nuclear. It would be an absolute catastrophe for the world, Alex. And you and I have talked about this, that beyond politics, beyond, what side are you on, whatever, we're on the side of humanity around here. We're on the side of stopping World War III. But unfortunately, Alex, there are people, a lot of neocons right now, calling for the bloodshed, calling for a full-on attack on Iran right now. And that's something that everybody needs to pull back and say, Let's hold our horses. This thing ended up being more of a, it feels like the Iranians hit the brakes at the last minute. That's what it feels like to me.
Well, I totally agree with you, and I hate to agree with Joe Biden, but broken clocks are right twice a day. Blind dogs find acorns. He came out and said he may drop charges on Julian Assange, which is obviously very popular and the right thing to do. He also...
Well, his elections is coming up, so Biden's going to say what sounds good to the American people. All right, but we know their actions is going to always be, contrary. All right, but we have seen Joe Biden even call out Israel, like, look, chill. Then he'll get on video and say, no, we got their back, we're going to support them. Then he'll say, chill. Then he'll say, well, we're not going to support them. All right, but as you can see here, Biden tells Israel that he won't support a counterattack on Iran. All right, when it's all said and done, Biden, all right, U.S. Babylon the Great will, okay, as we just read in prophecy, they will be drawn to war by these small hats, all right? You bet your bottom dollar. And we're watching it play out, call halal Yahabashim Yahweh Shai, okay?
So is saying he feels like Israel is dragging the U.S. into a war, that the U.S. is not going to back Israel if they strike Iran. I don't believe that. I think the U.S. will, but at least on the surface, we're seeing Biden telling Israel to back down. We know if Trump was in, Iran was scared of him, this would not have happened. But if you look at Netanyahu, let's talk about him. When they, a few weeks ago, killed the 2 Iranian generals and a bunch of their diplomatic corps, blowing up the Iranian embassy, which is sovereign soil there in Syria, Israel had to know this was going to trigger some type of Iranian response.
And with Biden, all right, Psalms 55:21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, because it's an election year. But war was in his heart. His words are softer than oil, yet they are drawn sword. So, yeah, you see him kind of, getting on the small hats and telling Netanyahu to chill. But war is in their heart. And ultimately, we know that, him and the rest of them, they're all doing the bidding of the elite anyway. You see?
Well, that's exactly right. And so striking a consulate. So this was a consulate in Syria, so a third-party country. Obviously, Syria very close with Iran. But you had this huge meeting with the IRGC, huge meeting with their senior officials. And look, I'm sure they're not planning anything good as regards to Israel. They're not meeting to just have tea and crimpets over there. So I can understand why Israel would want to look at that as potentially a target package for them. But of course, the striking of a consulate itself, being that it is diplomatic sovereign soil, is a red line, even for the Middle East, which is an area known not to have exactly that many red lines. And people got to understand too, that that the Middle East is a very different region from Europe. It's a very different region from, it's not the Europe, it's not.
And as the big bro, Elder Malcolm says, there's no such thing as a Middle East. All right. It's just a portion of Asia. All right. That was all created, all right, for propaganda and everything else. But we know that region, all right, in the East is going to be the center of attention, prophecy-wise, for World War III to get kicked off.
It's not the United States. This isn't the Christian world. And so, Alex, when you get hit in the Middle East, you have to hit back. This is the iron law. This is Hammurabi's code. This is eye for an eye land. And so when you're in eye for an eye land, if Iran didn't respond in any way to this attack, then other people in the Middle East maybe start getting ideas on Iran. Maybe the people of Iran start getting ideas. Maybe the regime starts getting worried. And so that's why they were forced to respond.
Right, because over the years, it's been kind of like, well, what's up with Iran? Y'all go do something? Y'all scared? Like the elder Ariella said, what's going on? So the fact that we got something, all right, is beautiful. And again, don't forget, all right, what Ezekiel, the 38th chapter says, man. So this is beautiful, man. All right, as Gog and Magog, which is Russia, gathers together for war, Ezekiel 38:4, and I will turn thee back. It's going to put Russia back in that Soviet spirit and put hooks into thy jaws, all right, meaning they would be in an uncouth, all right, spirit. You put hooks into the jaws of a wild animal to tame it. All right. And I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them with all sorts of armor, even with a great company of bucklers and shields and all of them handling swords. All right. Again, this would take place before the kingdom was set up. Nate is telling you that this is going to take place after the kingdom is set up, when the scriptures tell you it wouldn't be no more war, man. Yo, the Lord is going to deal with you cats who are playing with these scriptures. But as you can see, the nations that are mentioned, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, okay? And again, who's Persia? That's Iran. Okay? That's Iran when you look it up. Okay? So, I mean, Libya, see what's going on with Libya, and which we know that's I believe they're Muslim. Okay. Let's see here. Libyan leaders must put national interest. I'm pretty sure if you look, you'll see Libya. All right. Mentioned Libya, and you know they're mad as hell. All right, at Babylon the Great, they're ready, so they're gonna be joined with Russia. All right, but if you just look up these different nations, all right, or just type in Libya, Russia. See what, although we're on Google, so we can't, it ain't gonna really come up like that. But under new general, Russia's Wanger makes deeper inroads into Libya. Boom. What military advantage could Russia get out of Libya? See? So Russia's going to be, a defense into these different nations, man. Putin moved to secure Libya bases is new regional worry for U.S. So the U.S. is worried about Russia being tied with Libya. Okay, let's type in Russia, Ethiopia. Okay, Russia, Ethiopia. Okay. And a lot of these African nations in their ruins joining, jumping to Russia. Here's how Russia could help Ethiopia in its peaceful quest for a port. Russia-Africa relations discussed. Okay. Russia initiates health project in Ethiopia. 2,000 posts to be built. So the Russia is helping these different African nations, setting up embassies. All right. Training up their military. All right. Following the Ogaden War, the Soviet Union, which is Russia, strengthens its ties to Ethiopia. So we're witnessing prophecy come to pass right before our eyes, man. So if you're one of those people saying, not enough is happening, the Lord, and look, man, it's going down. These prophecies are faithful and true. As we started the scripture, in Revelation, the 22nd chapter, we started with the seal not the words, Salakia. In Revelation 22 and 10, and he said unto me, seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He that is filthy, let him be filthy still. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. He that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to his work. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. So ultimately, right here is where we are. Okay? If we're not going to seal the words of the prophecy of this book, because these sayings are faithful and true. All right, so you can look at the rest of this video, which he explains some things. All right, you have to go to InfoWars. And the title is Jack, whatever his last name is, predicts U.S. Attacks on U.S. soil ahead of NATO mobilization in Ukraine. So it's going down. Hopefully y'all edified. On to the next. Shalom.